hotel in Philadelphia called the Bellevue, on the corner of Broad and Walnut, still there today. It was late, it was night, it was cold. All the guests were accounted for. He was working the night shift. And he got to that point in the night where he said, you know what? Guests are all here. It's quiet. No one is in the streets. Let me just kick back, read a book for tonight, and 6, 8 hours from now, they'll get up. But right now, I'm just going to relax. And he sat there and he bemoaned his miserable life. See, George Balt was no longer a young man. He was 42 years old in 1893. Now, in 2024, being 42, you're a kid. In 1893, do you know what 42 was? It was old. You're expected to be dead in 18 years. You're old. Sitting there in the graveyard shift of some miserable dive of a hotel. Boy, he had reason to bemoan his miserable life, did he not? And while he was feeling down in the dumps, the front door swung open. Wait a minute, all the guests are accounted for. Who the hell is this? And an elderly couple walked in, wet, tired, drenched, frustrated. We know that look. Frustrated as hell. They said, young man, we've been in every hotel in Philadelphia, every single hotel we've been in. No room to be had. George looked at him. It's a convention in town. There isn't a room in Philadelphia available. And the old couple looked like they were struck by lightning. George Balt was a good, kind, decent man. He really was. He felt bad for this elderly couple. And he said to them, you know what? They give me a room. I'm going to be here at the desk all night. Why don't I go up and clean the room for you? You spend the night there. It's on me. I won't even charge you for it. Oh, this couple, they were so grateful. They really were. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Clean the room. They went up there. They had a good night's sleep. They came down in the morning. They were refreshed. They felt good. They felt thankful. And they walked up to George. And the old man said to him, young man, I'm going to open a hotel on 34th Street and 5th Avenue in Manhattan this year. I want you to run it. George said, what do I know about running a hotel in Manhattan? How? How do I do that? And the old man said, just treat everyone the way you treated us. The reason, folks, you never give up on your dreams, the reason you never lose your faith is when you least expect it, serendipity will walk into your life. See, the old man's name was William Waldorf Astor, and the tiny little hotel he was building on 34th Street and 5th Avenue was called the Waldorf Astoria. The first proprietor of the Waldorf Astoria was George Balt, and he was the general manager for 20 years. He created the concept of an urban hotel being a luxury destination for the world. He became incredibly wealthy in those 20 years. He bought a number of hotels for himself personally. He built a castle for his wife, a man I can respect. And he lived a phenomenal life. When he died, George Balt Jr., his son, took over as a proprietor of the Waldorf Astoria. Never give up on your dreams. Never lose your faith. Which brings me to Epicured. I want to see a show of hands. How many people in this room think they eat healthy? Okay. Almost everyone. How many people in this room alter what you eat just a little bit because you have some minor medical condition or minor medical issue? Okay? Yeah. Everyone in the room. My case, lifetime of borderline hypoglycemia. I have to eat meals constantly, small meals. And in my case, it's the same chicken and white rice over and over and over again. That disgusting, worthless, painful, dry chicken, white rice, every single day of my life until I got sick of it, and I still eat the goddamn stuff. So someone presented me with an idea, a business called Epicured. What if we took Michelin star chefs and combined them with medical professionals to produce medically tailored meals for the masses? Medically tailored meals through an omni-channel distribution system already in place for their current products. And they'd be able to hit my minimum 15% EBIT minimal requirements within 3 years. Sounds pretty difficult. These people are already doing it. They are doing it right now. What's the secret sauce of their business? Somebody tell me. What is the secret sauce of this business? They're going to have hundreds of thousands of customers eating medically prepared meals, having all types of information about their medical condition and how to best treat it with food. What is the secret sauce? What is the currency of the 21st century? What is the major currency that built Amazon and Google and Microsoft? The currency is data. Data. Do you realize how much data they are going to have and how much they can leverage that data? Now, many of you know how I work. Put a big spreadsheet in front of me. Top line, operating income, EBIT margins, EBITDA margins, net profit margins, and I sit there and I stare at it and I try to kill it. My objective, kill the damn business. That's my objective. Okay, I looked at this spreadsheet. Morons in the Treasury continue to print money and throw us into recession in a couple of years, which they will. Will this business survive? And I came to the conclusion, they're medically essential. They have a high-end clientele. I can't kill it. Okay. Our even stupider Federal Reserve Bank and our even more retarded, pathetic, worthless, blood-sucking parasites in the U.S. Treasury take, not down on our government, take our current $34.5 trillion of debt and ramp it up to $50 trillion, which they will. Now, inflation is not the problem. Now it's deflation. Can I kill this business in a deflated environment? No, I can't. Clientele is too high-end. Clientele has too much liquidity. In short, I can't kill this business. And I'm damn good at killing businesses. Can't kill this one. David Gruppo is here to tell us how they are going to leverage this concept into a multi-million and possibly billion idea. David?
Thank you very much. I have not the right computer or the right board, but I have transferred the presentation, and possibly it will be up on the screen. I can't entertain you, but we can feed you actually. So my colleague here, Rob Mansfield, has brought some little niblets that we provide through Energy Bites. As we're trying to figure this out, I guess I'll start by saying that we're here today, maybe also for two reasons. One is that I would say shortly after World War II, the United States went on this vast experiment without purposely thinking it was an experiment. But what would happen if we fed people that died of highly industrialized, highly processed food, and see what happens? Well, we now know what happens, and it's terrible, right? So basically, food can kill you, right? And the food and the diet we're currently eating in our country today is killing us. Simultaneous with that experiment, they also ran a second experiment. And the second experiment was to say, essentially, to the healthcare industry, health plans and doctors, we're going to pay you to take care of people's health. Do what you need to do, but there's a condition. The only tools you can use are diagnostics and drugs, for all intents and purposes. Right? So on the one hand, we're basically slowly poisoning people, and on the other hand, we're basically telling the healthcare industry you can only look at a very narrow thing and only use a couple of little different tools to actually treat them, right? So what we found, obviously, things we all know, but we forgot for many years, it seems like, that food actually is curative, and it is able to, when used right, it can maintain your health. It can maintain your health, it can address health conditions and so on. And so we exist in a way. The need for Epicured is almost. So that's my screensaver. Is I don't know if anybody knows how to do this.
I got it.
Sorry? Someone actually knows something about technology, about these kinds of things. So in a way, we're here in a way where there'd be no need for us, except for these vast experiments that we're all having.
Can I just get your settings?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know your stuff.
In the meantime, while he's doing this, I'm Rob Mansfield, and I'm going to hop on to by the way, amazing presentation. You guys are, I can't wait to get these toys for my grandchildren. Awesome. Making a difference is the thing. It's what I live my life by, and using nutrition to do it is a gift. Food as medicine is an interesting way of talking about it, right? Food as medicine, everyone talks about food as medicine, medically tailored meals, interesting concept. But when I'm at a party and I say medically tailored meals, eyes go, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is taking these things that we all experience, gut issues, for instance, GI issues, IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, celiac. 27% of Americans have something like this. 27% of us have something like that. It means that when you go out for that beautiful meal with your friends and family, you go, not really hungry. Thanks, I'll just have some water. If you choose to jump that wagon and eat, what's the outcome for you? Maybe in the bathroom for the next couple of days, maybe in the hospital, maybe writhing in pain. We want to take the holidays, those beautiful times with your family. Food is such an amazing emotional experience. When you get older, it's the last thing that you have that you own. I want to eat something that tastes good, that feels good, We're taking it out of the closet. We're taking all of those things out of the closet. We're going to give you food that's gorgeously made by our Michelin-rated chefs. And what is that word, Michelin-rated chefs? El Bulli in Spain. Have you heard of it? That's where our chef sharpened his knives. El Bulli, not El Bulli, Bulli, who just passed away, unfortunately. That's where our chefs spent the last 20 years making this stunning, sexy food. We've got it. That's what we're doing. Never frozen, you're getting food, real food. And all of a sudden, real, delicious food can make you feel okay. And you can be part of the party. Thanksgiving. You know what? The family that doesn't have a problem, but the one or two people that do, can all eat together and love it. And how cool is that? That's just a small part of what we're doing. We're working with insurance companies. Insurance companies are getting it. Because we said, hey, insurance company, it's $40,000 a day when this person goes into the hospital for you. How about, before they get in the hospital, let's fix things. And it's simple as food. Using data, using real data, science, to understand how to feed you. Tailored food for you, for you, for you. What do you need? We've got that. And it's delicious. David, are you up? Go.
So we did have entertainment, I didn't realize that.
I am nothing if I'm not entertaining. Ask my wife.
Here we go. So, society said food's literally killing us, right? And it is the cause of, most of leading diseases, right? So if you think about things that are mostly causing health costs to go up, there are a lot of them diet-related, either caused by diet or the improvement, right? And it also turns out that food can, when used properly, food actually is quite curative, right? So the notion that you have to treat them with drugs necessarily, or in the first step, is actually we disabuse people of that, obviously, the things that we do. Fortunately, the world is sort of back becoming sane again in terms of how they're looking at this. And there is, from a policy point of view, from an academic point of view, and from a more commercial market point of view, there has been now a bit of a tiering in terms of how do we understand how to use food and what does it look like. And so this is sort of a graphic that was produced by Tufts that's done a lot of work in the nutrition area, basically looking at stuff as broad as population level health type policies, and there are a lot of changes that are going on there. Nutrition programs that are in place, been in place for a long time, but have also going through more changes, which I can talk about with, later on. Produce prescriptions are beginning to be utilized by insurance companies and medical practices, and we've got medically tailored groceries, and then at the top, which is sort of really where we play, is the medically tailored meal. Now that can mean a lot of different things. To us, it means something really quite specific, and we'll get to that. So there is a growing adoption for the medically tailored meals, which is the part of the segment that we're sort of most focused on. We can do and do some of the other elements as well, which is grocery boxes and things like that. But the primary focus we have is meals, as Rob said. They are prepared meals, they're always fresh, never frozen, delivered everywhere in the country, right, overnight. We have a growing body of research that is looking at not just that, obviously nutrition, when done properly, is curative and keeps you healthy for longer and more productive. But then it actually is really quite effective at addressing certain kinds of illnesses in particular. And if you look at the cost of health care in particular, it turns out that if you can treat someone with drugs and diagnostics, it costs this, and the reimbursements are up here. But if actually you can pick the things that are highly receptive to nutrition, the cost of doing it is much, much cheaper. So the study that Tufts has done, sort of trying to get their arms around just how big this is in terms of an issue. It's in the billions and trillions of dollars over time. So we're beginning to see, as I said, sort of more room from a policy point of view, and research point of view, and a commercial point of view, and there's a lot of money that's being put from the government side to back these policies and to really begin to carry out. So while we founded the company 7-8 years ago, primarily or exclusively really to people who were buying food for themselves, as Rob said, really to solve problems of just being able to eat along with everybody else and eat with confidence that it wasn't going to make them sick. We now have a lot of money going into programs to basically open up the market for something that is in fact reimbursable. And so as we sort of combine sort of some of the research that has been done, as well as Research Foundation and philanthropic organizations that are beginning to put money into it, policies, as I mentioned, insurance companies and providers who are also spending money and investing in this. We also have an interesting new program that has been announced and is in the process of being implemented now in New York State, in particular, specifically, which is basically opening up Medicaid to basically allow the referral to medically tailored meals for people who need them. Right? So they're looking at basically the Medicaid population, those who are at risk basically because they are undernourished for all intents and purposes for food insecurity of one kind or another. And then identifying those that are very, very heavy users of medical services and trying to figure out where there is a possibility of addressing those concerns through nutrition, that they can prescribe medically tailored meals. And there's several $100 million worth of money that is being allocated specifically for food over the next 3 years in New York State. This waiver program in New York has been approved. It was many years in the making. It's now been announced. It's in the process of being stood up. Monies are going to begin to flow presumably in the middle-ish of the year, and probably referrals will start sometime at the end of the year, beginning of next at the very latest. And what's happening in New York is also happening in other states. So we're beginning also to talk and engage with providers and others in other states to roll this program out. The interesting thing about the program is that they're not just sort of throwing money at it and saying, we'll see what happens. They're actually being very careful about defining the results that will come from this, right? So they're going to track the use of in our case, the medically tailored meals as the intervention, and then determine whether and to what extent that actually produced better results. So as I said, we're being set up for this, which is a little bit why we're here, right? So we got our start essentially with the notion that we're going to take this medical research that is out there, and we're going to combine it with really good quality chefs to produce really delicious food that's actually quite good for you, right? So I would say there's sort of three things that are sort of very core to us. One is that the food has to be actually food, right? And I say this because the medically tailored meals can be sort of this, a marketing term as opposed to really a substantive term. And so we don't mean a processed version of a medically tailored meal, which you can sometimes say. We mean actual food that's delicious to eat, you look forward to. And that's sort of one piece of it. The other piece of it, obviously, is the science of it. And the science of it is really critical, right? So it's not loosely medically tailored, but very specifically medically tailored, and where we can actually, and where it's informed by the science of it. And then, if it's going to actually improve people, and it's going to be, and it's, and we want to advance sort of the science of it, the data of it is really, really critical. And we are beginning to build out the data, not in a creepy way, but really as a way of making sure that what we're doing is in fact working. And if it's not working, why isn't it working in the systems, right? By the way, from a time point of view, I want to be respectful. How much time have I?
5 to 10.
Okay. I will not cover every slide in great detail. There are three basic arms to our business. We've got the sort of we call the self-pay business, which is essentially an e-commerce platform that you go to Epicured.com, you can find. Primarily what you'll see there is a low FODMAP diet and those options, non-gluten essentially, and a couple of other criteria that you can select meals from. It's a selection of a couple hundred meals. And that was sort of the founding and the core of the business today, the bulk of our revenue and activity. But we also have a wholesale business where where our stuff appears in hospital shops, as well as in Amazon Go, and a couple of other retailers in the New York area. And then the third piece of it, which is really an increasingly important piece of it, is sort of called enterprise business, which is now that these opportunities are opening up, we're really pursuing it. And it occurs in I'll call it 2 or 3 different ways. One of which is sort of true to our roots. We have worked from the very beginning of the company with researchers, clinical researchers doing human clinical studies and/or clinical trials where we're providing the nutrition. Right? So we've been involved in actually advancing the science, not just specifically to the a diet that we have worked with and are hewing to for the specific purpose of digestive issues, but we're actually advancing the science relative to the specific food and the diet that we're preparing for these patients, right? So it's not a generic statement, it's a very specific statement also. And in fact, that early study that's being done, the results are being published in the next few weeks, and they in fact will advance the science and the knowledge associated with the kind of food that people can and cannot digest and what is required or not required. And so we'll be taking advantage of that to be able to fine tune and develop on those. So anyway, so there's a whole clinical studies trial of it. One aspect of it also is that it's very difficult for people to recruit clinical participants, and you can use food in order to do that. And so there are a lot of reasons why sort of the clinical piece of this and the academic studies piece of it is actually an important commercial angle. The other part of it is health insurance companies, as Robert mentioned, and there's a lot of different, it's a complicated market, obviously a highly regulated market with its ins and outs, but between Medicare, providing Medicare Advantage in particular, increasing use of plans as a benefit, meals as a benefit, as well as now beginning to see the health plans using food actually as a way of treating people, so it's actually a way of reducing the medical losses, that's not just a marketing issue, right? So there's that piece of it. The Medicaid programs that I mentioned are also now very large programs, and are being done in a very serious way, actually not just for money, but and then I would say sort of almost at the other end of the spectrum, but a natural outgrowth of if you're taking nutrition seriously and you're taking the quality of food seriously, part of it also relates to performance, how you feel every day, but also how you perform if you have very high demands. So we've signed a contract just recently with a professional Major League Soccer team, the one here in New York City Football Club, where we actually are feeding their players on their away games, right? So one of the concerns they have is they're young players, their physical demands are very, very high. Nutrition is obviously important, but they don't really know a lot about it. When they're on the road, they don't eat particularly well. And so we're feeding them for performance on the way out and for recovery on the way back, right? So we're providing really sort of a spectrum of offers, right? As said, mostly it's been an e-commerce self-pay business today, but we soon will see with the growth of both the enterprise as well as the self-pay business growth. Let me walk. I've sort of covered some of these, so as I said, in the interest of time, I'll sort of clip through these a little bit quickly. We're a member of the ACHP. It's an organization of non-for-profit insurance plans. And one of the things that's quite interesting about this is that they're not so commercially oriented, right? So when you're going to talk about food, they're not necessarily first talking to a guy with a spreadsheet. You're trying to figure out actually what they want to do for their population and for their members in terms of making them better. And so this has been a very interesting set of relationships that we have, and in fact has led to our sort of first contract with one of these companies feeding people in an elder care setting, where they've been getting food, but it's not really very good food. They realize that it's not very good food provided by someone who doesn't really specialize in that. And now we're providing not just food that tastes good, but is also oriented towards various health conditions of their population, right? So we're providing community-style meals as well as individualized meals depending on the specific needs of members showing up on that particular date for their medical care and to eat. I will, just again in the interest of time, I'll sort of close on this slide. It basically says...
You're okay, keep going.
Oh, okay. So there is an approach. So you'll begin to hear now, if you haven't already, medically tailored meals will be a term that a lot of people will use. And if I can urge that you pay a little bit close attention to what it is they're actually saying, because it's a new enough concept that there's not really a technical definition for it, right? And so you'll see people saying, oh, we're medically tailored meal business. It's a bunch of meals on their website, which look fine. They say they're medically tailored, which to a certain degree they are, but basically that's their business, When we're working with people, we take a little bit of a different approach. One is that we want to make sure we really understand the organization's objectives. We really want to understand the population that they're serving and their needs. Right, so we spend a fair amount of time with enterprises in terms of working with them to understand how it is that we can play we want to make people better, we want to give them something to look forward to eating, but we also want to make sure it is in fact reducing their use of medical services and is in fact producing the business results as well that they need. Some of those results are just their member experience, right? Because the ratings that people provide for their insurance plans as well as the providers has a bigger and bigger effect on the business of being a health plan and or being a provider network. So that consumer feedback does matter, and food is one really, really effective way, if it's done well, of improving the customer experience, but also quite economically as well as in terms of reducing medical losses and actually making it. So anyway, that's a big part of what we do. Putting that sort of operationally into effect is also quite important. Again, it's not just picking up clicking on a meal and getting a frozen meal delivered to your home at some point. We deliver, as Rob said, it's always fresh, never frozen, comes straight to your home or business location if that's the case. But the operational details in terms of how we actually make that so that it's streamlined and simple and easy, and the right food gets the right person at the right time with the right diet, and the dietary criteria is obviously really quite important. Sort of wrap that up with the fulfillment piece of this, which is that it's packaged in a way that can arrive fresh, no matter where you are in the country, except right now for the last one in Hawaii. If you're in Puerto Rico, that works. And then the technology piece of this is also really, really critical. And primarily, and we are working now with integrating into other technology providers that essentially can provide an individualized piece of the feedback relative to a customer's experience with the food, right? So, for example, there are wearables, for example, and other apps that consumers use, and we are working to integrate basically our systems with theirs, so that as they prescribe diets, for example, or prescribe meals, we can make sure that they're ordering the right things, and that we can then monitor quite high level of detail. Specificity, what effect that's having on that. I will. These are some of the business aspects of what we do. I think I can end there. I think that mostly covers it. As any small company, obviously, we're always looking for money. And we'd be interested in entertaining, talking a little bit more specifically with anybody who's got an interest. Rough order of magnitude, last year we did about $7-ish million in top line revenue. We have margins that are gross margins of around 50%. And in spite of the fact that this is a very tough business in the sense that very hard to make money in food, particularly if you're small, the efficiency of the operation is obviously really critical. We have our own kitchen, so we don't outsource it to third parties, and it allows us, one, to really control what we're preparing and to change it very, very quickly. We expect, we're looking to grow, as I mentioned, both the self-pay business as well as the enterprise business, while maintaining those margins, which we think is quite possible.
I'd like to just add a couple of things to what David is saying. First of all, a lot of the companies that are out there that are saying medically tailored food, in fact, I just sent you an email today that I got, hey, we're a medically tailored food company, can you fulfill for us? So they're marketing companies.
They don't actually provide food. They don't make food.
They don't make food. We actually make the food from step one to delivery. That's the first thing I wanted to tell you. The second thing, what we were doing with the elder care, I just got back from Massachusetts. It was extraordinary. You know, I'm a very touchy-feely guy, I'm sure you got that already, and passionate. And the first time I went up there, I watched what they were served. And I had tears in my voice because it was the movies that you saw, the prison food, it was horrific. There's no respect in our country for our elders. Besides that, nurses and teachers, but that's another whole
And they're eating, and they're just slopping down this food. The potatoes are boxed, the vegetables are canned. It's gross. So that's the first step that we changed. We're bringing them gorgeous food that they're gonna love. I'm so excited about that. And besides that, I just learned, and I didn't get a chance to download it, David, they didn't have any nutritionals. The RDs there, the people that understand the food and are supposed to be regulating these people, this is their only nutrition of the day. They're malnourished, they mostly have diabetes, there's a labyrinth of things that they're supposed to be eating towards. There's no nutritionals on these foods. Nothing. Everything they're getting from us has a list. They dictated to us, this is where we want to be. I've said, well, exactly where you want to be. Tell me. So the dietitians are telling me exactly where they want to be. I bring that back. Then we go to those that are feeding the people and saying, well, they want a little bit more. Okay, dietitian, can they have a little bit more? How much more? Where is that bucket? So we're doing all of that, and that is incredibly exciting. And the last thing I want to say is the sports team, because that's incredible. New York City Football Club. They're 12-year-olds, these kids. I mean, they're 18 to 24.
Very well paid 18 to 24-year-olds.
That's what I was going to say. They are plumped from their countries all over the world, and they're making, I think the lowest paid is about $150,000, $200,000, up to $1.4 million. They have absolutely no idea what to do with that money. They don't even understand that money. So we speak to the nutritional directors, their coaches, and we're working with them on their food. Not only are they loving this, they're losing the weight that they need to lose. We're working on performance meals specifically, but also culturally. If they're from Bogota, they don't just want American Spanish food. They want food from Colombia that brings their home back to them. We're giving them that. Not only that, they're asking us to feed them in their homes now. The nutritional director said, this guy, I can't keep him right because they're eating pasta and pizza every day. They have all this money. They're living in gorgeous homes. They have no idea what to do. So now we're feeding them in their homes. It's the beginning of what we can do, and we're looking for the help to make this bigger, better, and stronger quickly. Because you know what? Food is killing us, but food can save us. And that's what we're here for.